For 30 years, the pharmaceutical industry ran clinical trials on compounds designed to replicate exactly what this fruit does naturally inside your body. They failed every time. The pomegranate, a fruit so ancient that Persian kings carried it into battle as a symbol of power, contains a molecule called punicalagin. Punicalagin is not found anywhere else on Earth. No supplement, no lab synthesis, no other food. Only this fruit produces it, and only in its outer rind, the part most people discard without a second thought. What punicalagin does in the human body has been quietly documented across decades of peer-reviewed research. It crosses into the bloodstream intact, gets metabolized by gut bacteria into a compound called urolithin A, and that compound does something researchers once believed was only achievable through extreme caloric restriction. It triggers a cellular self-cleaning process called mitophagy, the body's internal mechanism for removing damaged mitochondria before they trigger inflammation, accelerated aging, and disease. A fruit your grandmother grew in her garden has a documented pathway to cellular regeneration that pharmaceutical companies have spent billions of dollars trying to bottle. One study published in the journal Nature Medicine identified urolithin A, the metabolite produced from pomegranate's polyphenols, as one of the only natural compounds ever observed to trigger mitophagy in aging human muscle tissue. The pharmaceutical version of this compound is currently in clinical trials. The natural version has been sitting on a tree, unpatented and unglamorous, for over 4,000 years. The pomegranate Punica granatum has a documented cultivation history stretching back to 3000 BCE across the ancient Near East and Central Asia. It appears in Egyptian tomb paintings, Mesopotamian texts, the Hebrew Bible, the Quran, ancient Greek mythology, and Ayurvedic medicine. It is not a superfood trend. It is not a wellness industry creation. It is one of the most thoroughly studied fruits in the history of botanical medicine, and the full picture of what the research actually shows is radically different from the polite, hedging language it usually gets packaged in. There is a reason this fruit was called the fruit of kings, but the reason is not the one you were told. And before you hear the full story of what modern science has confirmed about this plant, you need to understand one specific finding that most health channels, most nutritionists, and most doctors have never mentioned in the same sentence as the pomegranate's name. The pomegranate is native to a stretch of land running from modern-day Iran through the Himalayan foothills of northern India, one of the most botanically rich corridors on the planet. From there, it spread westward to the Mediterranean, eastward into China, and southward through the Arabian Peninsula. Today, it is cultivated commercially across Iran, India, Turkey, Spain, China, the United States, and more than 60 other countries. It thrives in arid and semi-arid climates where few other fruiting trees can survive, deep-rooted, drought-tolerant, and extraordinarily productive once established. A mature pomegranate tree lives for over 200 years. Trees documented in parts of Iran and Spain are still bearing fruit after a century of continuous production. This is not incidental. The tree's extraordinary longevity is biochemically connected to its chemical profile. The same antioxidant compounds that protect it from environmental stress are the ones that, in human biochemistry, interrupt the oxidative cascade that accelerates aging and disease. For 4,000 years across Persia, the pomegranate was the official symbol of royal authority, fertility, and medicine. Persian physicians prescribed pomegranate rind as an anti-parasitic. Ayurvedic medicine documented 3 distinct therapeutic uses for 3 distinct parts of the tree: the fruit juice for fever reduction, the rind for gut infections, and the bark of the root for expelling intestinal worms. These were not folk myths, they were specific, repeatable therapeutic protocols. The remarkable thing is how precisely modern pharmacology has validated them. The tannins in the rind have demonstrated documented antimicrobial activity. The punicalagins in the juice have confirmed anti-inflammatory pathways. The bark extract has shown verified anthelmintic properties. Traditional farmers in Iran's Yazd province have grown pomegranates using the same cultivation techniques for over 1,000 years, and modern research now confirms that the specific soil, irrigation, and pruning methods they use actually increase the polyphenol density of the fruit. Researchers at the University of California, Riverside, published findings in Cancer Prevention Research documenting that pomegranate juice extract significantly inhibited the proliferation of prostate cancer cells in laboratory settings, and that men with biochemically recurrent prostate cancer who consumed pomegranate juice daily showed a measurable lengthening of their PSA doubling time from an average of 15 months to 54 months. A separate peer-reviewed study, published in Atherosclerosis, confirmed that daily pomegranate juice consumption reduced carotid intima media thickness, a clinical marker for atherosclerosis, by 30% over a 3-year period in hypertensive patients. Researchers at Monash University in Australia demonstrated that pomegranate polyphenols modulate gut microbiome composition in ways that improve systemic inflammation markers. And a landmark paper published in Nature Medicine identified urolithin A, the metabolite produced specifically from pomegranate polyphenols, as the first natural compound shown to trigger mitophagy in aging human muscle tissue. These are not isolated findings from small studies. They are converging lines of documented evidence pointing at the same conclusion. The clinical measurement of pomegranate's cardiovascular effect, a 30% reduction in arterial plaque progression over 3 years, is the same order of magnitude as some pharmaceutical interventions. The pomegranate tree costs less than the medication's monthly copay. Pomegranate polyphenol content varies dramatically by variety, soil mineral profile, sun exposure, and watering regime. Studies published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry have measured punicalagin concentrations that vary by as much as a factor of 10 across different growing conditions. A pomegranate grown in mineral-rich, well-draining soil under full sun, irrigated sparingly to induce mild water stress, consistently produces fruit with polyphenol profiles 2 to 4 times higher than the same variety grown in overwatered, nitrogen-heavy commercial conditions. A pomegranate planted from a rooted cutting reaches its first productive fruiting stage in 2 to 3 years. By year 5, a well-managed tree is capable of producing 15 to 30 kilograms of fruit annually. By year 10, this figure can reach 50 kilograms. The trees require almost no inputs once established, no fungicides, minimal fertilizer if the soil is decent, and a pruning cycle focused on opening the canopy to maximize light penetration. In climates with mild winters, they can be grown as far north as southern England and northern Japan. In pots, varieties like Nana, a compact dwarf with full-size fruit quality, are documented, growing successfully in climates with hard winters when overwintered in a greenhouse or cool indoor space. The rind, the part discarded in nearly every kitchen on Earth, is where the highest concentration of punicalagins is found. Dried pomegranate rind, ground to a powder, has been used in Unani and Ayurvedic medicine for centuries. The rind contains 3 to 4 times the antioxidant activity of the juice. After juicing a pomegranate, save the rind halves. Dry them in a low oven at 60 degrees Celsius for 3 to 4 hours, or in the sun for 2 days in a warm climate. Once completely dry and brittle, grind them to a fine powder using a spice grinder. Store in an airtight glass jar. Add half a teaspoon to yogurt, tea, or warm water daily. The taste is mildly astringent and slightly bitter. This is the tannin profile at work. This is the part of the pomegranate that researchers used in the most significant antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory studies, and it is free from every fruit you eat. The pharmaceutical industry is currently in phase 2 clinical trials for a synthetic version of urolithin A. A daily supplement form sells online for approximately $40 per month. The natural precursor to urolithin A pomegranate polyphenols is available in rind you would otherwise throw in the bin. Pomegranate juice consumed daily for 12 weeks has been documented to reduce systolic blood pressure by an average of 5% in hypertensive patients. Pomegranate polyphenols inhibit the enzyme aromatase, a mechanism relevant to hormone-sensitive cancer pathways at concentrations achievable through dietary intake. Punicic acid, a fatty acid found in pomegranate seed oil, has demonstrated documented activity against breast cancer cell lines in laboratory settings. Pomegranate extract has shown clinical reductions in inflammatory markers, including CRP and IL-6, the same markers that are now recognized as predictors of cardiovascular event risk. The fruit's total antioxidant activity, measured by the ORAC method, is 3 times higher than red wine and green tea, two foods that have received vastly more attention and cultural status in the last 20 years. There is something precise about the fact that the pomegranate, a fruit associated with fertility, legacy, and the passage of time in every culture that ever cultivated it, is now confirmed to work specifically on the aging mechanisms of human cells. Every culture that valued this tree intuitively understood what the science now confirms in clinical language, that this plant has a relationship with the human body that goes beyond nutrition. It touches something longer. It touches continuity. In families across Iran, Afghanistan, Balochistan, and the Levant, a pomegranate tree planted by a grandfather is still fruiting for his grandchildren. The tree outlasts the person who planted it. The medicine it carries is the same medicine across 4,000 years of cultivation. The commercially grown pomegranate market is dominated by a handful of varieties: Wonderful in the United States, Hikaznar in Turkey, Bagua in India. But there are over 500 documented heritage varieties of pomegranate cultivated across Central Asia, the Middle East, and the Indian subcontinent, many of which carry specific chemical profiles that the major commercial varieties do not. These heritage varieties are at serious risk of displacement by commercial monoculture. Organizations like Navdanya in India and seed banks affiliated with ICARDA, the International Center for Agricultural Research in the dry areas, are actively documenting and preserving them. If you grow a pomegranate from a heritage seed, you are participating in a form of living preservation. The seeds are viable for 12 months when dried and stored at low humidity. A single mature pomegranate contains between 200 and 1,400 seeds, each one capable of producing a tree that can fruit for 2 centuries. A mature pomegranate tree producing 40 kilograms of fruit per year generates approximately $80 to $120, equivalent in retail fruit value annually, depending on market. In Pakistan, Iran, and India, where pomegranate cultivation has expanded significantly in the last decade, smallholders with 100 mature trees are generating stable annual incomes, competitive with commercial cash crops that require far higher chemical input. The global pomegranate market was valued at approximately $1.6 billion in 2023 and is projected to reach $2.4 billion by 2030, driven primarily by demand from nutraceutical, cosmetics, and functional food industries that are extracting exactly the compounds this fruit has carried for 4,000 years. There is one person in your life, a farmer, a parent, a neighbor with a patch of land, a friend who keeps a kitchen garden who does not know this story, who is planting things that matter less, who is spending money on supplements that are trying to replicate what a 200-year-old tree produces freely. This fruit represents the intersection of ancient wisdom, modern science, biological legacy, and economic independence. Is exactly the kind of knowledge that changes how someone sees their own land. The pomegranate has been waiting quietly on the margins of our conversation about health and agriculture for a very long time. Now you know what it actually is. Make sure someone else does too.